Alessandro, ci senti adesso?
Ora sì, perfetto.
Si sente bene? Ok.
Sì.
So now it's very nice to see you all today and good afternoon. I'm here to briefly introduce my colleague and friend and teacher, Professor Federico Madaro, who is professor of Chinese language and Chinese culture at the University of Torino. Just a few words. This morning while I was coming here, I took a book from my library. It's a book of 1972, Tourist in China. It's been written by a very famous noveler for children in Italy, whose name is Gianni Rodari, who wrote here at the beginning a sentence that I would like to read you. Rodari is saying, after having been 20 days in China, the tourist is wondering if he stayed there 20 minutes or 20 months. The tourist, so the person that is outside of the Chinese universe, outside of a culture, this is something that many of you, not only the Chinese people, but also the Turkish, the Latin American, the African, and so on, I think that you can perceive this. Staying outside of a culture, it's possible to understand many of the features of a culture. And if we are engaged with a job in another culture, is it possible to make this job in a consciousness way, in an aware way? Maybe among the many gaps that we have to mind in our professional life that you will have to manage, maybe more than our generation, your generation will have to face, is minding the gap of this, how can I say it? The gap between cultures in some way. This is something I've discussed a lot of time together with Federico, and this is the reason why we proposed this lecture today that I hope you can enjoy.
Grazie. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, the title of the conference today is quite clear, and the subtitle is quite ironical, I guess, because it's, well, I can go back. Does it work? Okay. Yes, the bumpy road leading to success in Chinese market. Of course, this is ironical. Why? Because right now you are not exactly involved, I guess, in business with China. You might be in the future, possibly. And this is a typical title of some conferences or seminars about the way of working and having success in China. And I even did a lot in my past when I worked for companies that were involved in China. Actually, the real question here is it easy to work in China? Or how can I understand the Chinese mentality in order to succeed in such a big and different country? Well, the question might be, of course, the topic of a long course of many years, of course. But in this case, I just wanted to concentrate into a very specific topic, which is the way many foreign companies try to represent the Chinese idea of beauty, of aesthetical fulfillment in a way, which is very functional to promote some products in China. In these times of social media, the traditional media like television, such as of course newspapers, are basically out of date. Nowadays, the real issue now is promoting in social media, especially on the mobile, on the portable devices. This is very important in China now. So many companies focus on this task. How can we succeed in attracting the attention of the Chinese consumers or for professional Chinese clients and so on. And we have to do in a very effective, short, very targeting some specific part of the population, especially on social media, such as, for example, Weibo, or even what we call here WeChat, which is another application for mobiles. Weibo has been a very important instrument for promoting products in China. Even now, the Weibo is basically a social medium, more or less roughly corresponding to Twitter in the West, but not only that. Weibo literally means microblog. So it's a microblogging application where everybody can write and present their products. And many companies are working with this Weibo and try to promote what they do, especially in the fashion industry. I focus here on the fashion industry because it's been in the last decades, it's been a very booming sector of business in China. Chinese customers are very focused on fashion, especially the emerging or already emerged middle class in China. So it is very important for the fashion industry to attract the attention of the Chinese customers. I want to introduce now not some theoretical principles of how to succeed in China. This is not the point. I just want you to make understand some mistakes that have been made in the last decade in order to better understand the Chinese mentality, which is not always corresponding to our mentality. So the most incredible, in a certain way, case was the total failure, as somebody may know, of the campaign of 2018 by Dolce & Gabbana. Dolce & Gabbana had organized a very important fashion show in China. And in order to promote this fashion show, they had put on Weibo some videos. Now, I want to, it just take a couple of minutes, 3 or 4 minutes. I want to show these videos to you. And there are English subtitles or Chinese subtitles for people. It's in Chinese, so Chinese students can understand. So these videos, I don't want to say anything in advance. I will ask something to you later. For who wants to tell something about what you will see, you feel free to tell us, because I would like to understand your point of view on these videos and what is right or what is wrong about this campaign. Okay, so let's start. I hope I can do it because, okay, I don't know how can. Okay, just 1 second. There are three different videos you can watch in a row.
玛格丽特披萨饼，欢迎收看 Dos and Governor 起快吃饭第1集。今天我们首先要向大家展示如何用这种小棍子形状的餐具来吃我们伟大的传统玛格丽特披萨饼。你们是不是一手拿一根，像小刀一样切一块披萨饼呢？不是这样。对，这样就对了。所以就是像钳子一样夹住一块披萨饼，直接送进嘴里。哦，别让奶酪滴下来。Bravissimo。意式香炸甜卷儿，欢迎收看 Dos and Governor 起快吃饭第2集。今天我们要吃的是传统的西西里香炸甜卷儿。终于有一个尺寸不那么让人手足无措的食物了，这是不是太夸张了？来，拿起筷子，在手里整理成钳子的形状，夹起一根甜卷儿。对你们来说还是太大了吗？你们还可以把一根筷子插进甜卷里面，像这样吃，这会让你感觉自己身在意大利，不过你是在中国。Bravissimo。番茄酱意面，欢迎收看 Dos and Governor 起快吃饭第3集。来到最后1集，让我们挑战传统的番茄酱意面。尽管你可能以为跟吃中国面条差不多，实际上吃的方式还是大有不同，没那么简单。试试看，把筷子插入面条，夹起它，对，夹起它，然后卷起来。能成功吃起来的人将会得高分。Bravissimo。啊，你的手链真是太漂亮了。
Had anybody already seen these videos? Not Chinese students, of course, but so who wants to say something about that? What is your feeling, your impression about these 3 commercials? Anybody? Did you like it? No, you didn't like it. How? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. What was wrong or what was right about these ads? This is the real question. They were meant to promote a fashion show. It was not a direct commercial for Dolce & Gabbana's products. It was a promotion for the promotional videos for a fashion show. On the surface of it, of course they look a little strange, a little bizarre, right? But when they came out in 2018, in November 2018, the fashion show was meant to be held in December, which, by the way, never was, because it was canceled after this disaster. As soon as these videos came out on Weibo, thousands, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Chinese netizens complained, criticized, and attacked these videos. Basically, we may think that these videos are, I don't know, maybe strange, maybe unclear about the target or the motivation of this, I don't know how to say it, of these aesthetic or aesthetical choices. But the real issue here is that these ads were wrong because they were ugly. There is a very important element which doesn't imply any, for example, sexual implication, which refers to any, doesn't refer to any sexual implication, which is present, of course, in the videos, but Chinese netizens were not impressed by that, or not only. The big mistake made in this case was the wrong aesthetical choices made by the company. There is an underlying amount of sarcasm or irony, which is not understood in China, especially when you use some traditional elements in the wrong way. First of all, the color. The color red, which is very important in Chinese culture. All the videos are red in a very exaggerated way. Everything is red, and this color comes to our eyes very, very with a sort of violence from an aesthetical point of view. And it is excessive, totally wrong usage of this element. And then the food. The basic question of a Chinese customer is, why does this Chinese model eat Italian food with chopsticks? What does it mean? Again, another big mistake. The chopsticks are a very important symbol for Chinese culture. Whatever is double, for example, in Chinese culture, brings good luck. The chopsticks work together. One chopstick, one single chopstick is of no use. So the idea of chopsticks is a very important element in Chinese culture. And of course, a Chinese person watching this video sees something very, very bizarre, and even thinks that this model is stupid. There is a certain amount of stupidity trying to eat, for example, a cannolo, which you know is a very heavy, sweet in Sicily, from Sicily, but it's made of ricotta. It's very heavy, very heavy. And the size of that cannolo is completely strange. It's huge. So this is completely crazy to eat this kind of sweet with chopsticks. And again, you never, for example, put the chopsticks in the food like she did. Again, this is a very important taboo in Chinese culture. This way of putting the chopsticks in the food like she does, I hope you remember, this is very important, is the way you put the chopsticks in the food for the dead. Because when you present the food for the dead, you put the bowls with especially with rice for example, in the Qingming festival, which was a couple of days ago, you put the food for the dead, and you insert the chopsticks inside the food in that way. So this way of using the chopsticks is very rude for the Chinese culture, very rude. So the real question is, how didn't they consider all these elements when they produced these videos? In that case, the reaction was furious, and the reply from Dolce & Gabbana were even another disaster, because they were interviewed after this by a famous fashion blogger in China. I don't want to discuss this because it would take us far away from the topic, but the reply was a disaster. Dolce or Gabbana, actually, he said bad things about China and Chinese culture, and then he denied, they canceled, they said their account had been hacked. A total PR disaster. But this is not the point. The point is, these commercials used some Chinese cultural items in a totally wrong way. And first of all, the girl. What is wrong about this girl? Nothing, of course. She's a model, she's been paid, and of course, maybe she didn't even imagine what would have come out of this, what kind of mess would have come out of from after these commercials were put on Weibo. But actually, there is a very important aesthetical element which goes against the Chinese culture. And maybe you didn't notice very well, but it is her eyes. Her eyes. I want to show you another video. From Mercedes-Benz. This video was put on Weibo in December 2021, so 3 years later. And let's watch it and then make some consideration about that. Qua ho bisogno. Also here, in this case, the video was canceled, was taken down from Weibo. For which reason? It doesn't look, there isn't anything wrong, apparently, for us. But there is something very wrong for Chinese people again, for the Chinese customer. When you want to promote a luxury brand or a luxury product, you use local models. It's okay. The advertising was put on the Chinese Weibo for Chinese customers. But what was wrong about that? Nothing wrong with the man. The man embodies a model of Chinese beauty, which is not very popular nowadays in 2022, but it was 3 years ago. And what about the girl? Again, the eyes. Have you noticed the makeup of the girl? The makeup of the girl was intended to underline, to emphasize the slanted eyes. The slanted eyes, which we call in Italian almond eyes, actually are a very big taboo in China. Because the emphasization of this kind of aesthetics reminds or leads to a very sad time for China. That was a time where the Westerners wanted to diminish the image of the Chinese people, wanted to make fun of it, and even try to promote an image of the Chinese people as a danger for the world. I will go on showing something to you. Dior, another image, terrible for Chinese customers. This was a photo of a series of 20 photos taken by a very famous photographer in China, which is called Chen Man. And again, November 2021. And this photo was showed in a fashion show in Shanghai. Again, what is wrong? Here it is more evident, clear. Look at her eyes. Look at the makeup. This makeup is intended to provoke a very strong reaction in the watcher. And even if this was only one photo, one image in a long series of photos of women of different Chinese ethnic nationalities, but this one, referring to the Han Chinese, so the main nationality in China, has something very quirky, very strange, very bizarre, aesthetically challenging for the Chinese audience. And again, the eyes. These eyes make no sense in China because they are portrayed as a kind of threat, menace to somebody, who knows who, because it is of course a photo in a fashion show, but in general the representation here again goes against the aesthetical values of the Chinese people. Let's move on. Again, here is Gucci, very, very famous brand in China. Again, photo on Twitter. So not on the Chinese Weibo, but on Twitter. In this case, the photographer was Italian, December 2021. Again, what is wrong in this photo? The photographer after they canceled this post from Twitter, they said, we took the inspiration from some clothes of the 30s of the Chinese of Chinese fashion. But again, look at the face. What kind of makeup is that? A very bizarre makeup with, again, this cliché or even stereotype of the slanted eyes. Let's move on. This was a very famous campaign of some instant food in China. These photos are taken again from Weibo, and the campaign was the campaign of a food company called the Three Squirrels, and the model is Chinese, the market is China, the target is Chinese consumers. So what was wrong again here? Apart from some symbols of Chinese history, including a photo of Mao, which was used in this case, but again, what we have here is the emphasis on these slanted eyes, thin eyes, or in another pejorative name, foxy eyes in English. This campaign, again, was cancelled. And don't forget, this campaign was made by Chinese company. But again, the aesthetical standard here was taken, according to the Chinese netizens who criticized this campaign, from the Western way of seeing the Chinese face. And even the model was criticized. And she defended herself and said, "What is wrong with my eyes? These are my eyes." And she complained again on Weibo, and she said, "What can I do if my eyes are like that?" Nothing wrong, of course. We will make some consideration later. You see it in a more clear way here. This was Zara. Again, the model here, I don't say beautiful or not beautiful. This is not the point. And I'm not telling you that these netizens are right or wrong to criticize. Okay? I'm just exposing some facts here. What is wrong with this photo? The makeup is a very, I'm not an expert, how do you say that? Very natural makeup, nothing wrong. But again, the problem of this model is that she has freckles, lentiggini. And freckles are not considered beautiful in Chinese aesthetics. And even more, the face, you see, the jaw here is very high, okay? And again, the eyes and the expression of the model, which is very serious, very strict, very stern in a certain way. So again, this photo was criticized by the Chinese netizens. Even Walt Disney was involved in this criticism. This is a very beautiful movie for the Chinese market. The story is very interesting because it is about a guy who wants to join a team of dancers for the lion dance, which is a very traditional dance in China. The director, as you see, Sun Haitang, is Chinese. But again, what was criticized here by many viewers is the image, is the representation of the face, especially of the hero of the movie, and of his eyes. Tiny, thin, and small eyes, and slanted. So, what is this controversy of slanted eyes and freckles in China? What is that? Why is that? Jing Daily is a quite famous website of fashion and on the web. And this writer, Luo Jiaqi, wrote, Chinese consumers are increasingly aware of racial representation issues on the global stage, and they are demanding greater cultural awareness about how they appear to the world. This is very important to understand what the Chinese people care about. In a certain way, the Chinese customers are tired of being represented in a certain way according to Western standards of beauty, which is not classical beauty, even in the West. But nowadays, this way of representing the beauty is completely out of line according to the Chinese customers, or many of them. Global Times is a very important newspaper in English, which is affiliated to the or promoted by the Chinese government. So we can say an official newspaper. And here there are some interesting consideration. And there is also a quotation of this professor from School of International Relations and Public Affairs at Fudan in Shanghai. The appreciation of beauty is a reflection of values. The West never gives up its discourse power in such fields. Take a look at the Chinese supermodels that are chosen by the West. They always fit the Western stereotype of Chinese. Unlike before, more Chinese are becoming increasingly aware of the hegemony of the West in the field of arts and aesthetics, and the freaky and twisted concept of beauty of a small group of people influenced by the West. So this article blames even the Chinese who are accomplices, according to the newspaper, of this kind of bunch of Westerners who want to promote this twisted representation of beauty. And this is a kind of an official standpoint. After these campaigns on Weibo, some of the most popular hashtags were colonial aesthetics, yellow peril, makeup, yellow peril, yellow terror also, or yellow danger. What is the yellow peril? Now, we have to go back a little bit now to the end of the 19th century. We don't have time to even to summarize history because the time is our enemy now. But this is a cartoon of 1899, and the name is "The Yellow Terror in Whole Is Glory." Here, look at the representation, threatening face of this person who wants to destroy the Western, the West in general, the Western civilization, killing a beautiful young lady, maybe virgin, who knows. And this was just one of the thousands of cartoons that were published from the end of the 19th century through all the 20th century until 1949. And another incredible incredible success story in the media was this person. Maybe somebody knows who he is. This is called Fu Manchu. Fu Manchu is a villain that was invented as the main character of a series of novels, and was represented in movies. The most famous one was representing him was Christopher Lee, a very famous actor. And this supervillain had all the characteristics of that we have described before. And this representation contributed a lot to the building up of the aesthetic representation of Chinese people in the West, especially in America. This recalls and reminds to the Chinese people a very sad and very painful, sorrowful time of their history. Why yellow peril? Because not only this character is aesthetically represented with this characteristic, you can easily understand, but also his evil gaze, his evil eyes want to show the danger which is or would be I want to to use my words very carefully, but the danger which is implied in the Chinese people for the West. This article is taken from the website of the China.org, which is the Chinese version of the Renmin日报, the official newspaper of the Chinese Communist Party, government newspaper. And let's go to the last sentence, very important. Slanted eyes or foxy eyes. It isn't the way most Chinese people actually look like. This is a very important point. It isn't what most Chinese think beauty is. It is what the West thinks a Chinese person should look like, or where his or her uniqueness lies. We may think, me, nothing to do with me. This is not me, right? This is not me. I would never do that. No, of course, you know. But in general, in a large part of society, slanted eyes are still considered an insult that we can use without consequences. This is very important. Without consequences, even in sport. I just chose some of hundreds of cases, even in Paralympic, not multi-billionaire sport, just even in Paralympic, in Paralympics. And a very single case was the one in the middle. Lavezzi was at that time was playing for a Chinese football team. So it was very strange. It posted this photo, which was canceled. Everybody apologized. And there is another important thing here. In all these episodes, all these cases, when the Chinese netizens complain or react, everybody apologizes. Okay? So here it is proved that there is a lot of ignorance behind that. Not always bad intention. A lot of ignorance. By the way, since we are in Torino, this poor girl didn't even know what she was doing, maybe. This is a famous football player in Juventus. And I want to mention that because she was maybe training. I'm not sure about the details of this photo on Twitter or was it? Yeah, maybe Twitter. No, maybe Instagram. I don't know. And as you see, she put something on her head, which is a plastic little hurdle. You have to run through or to jump on it, through it, and so on. And by the way, in Italian, this is called cinesino. So little or small Chinese. Still now, if you go to the training camps and so on, you will hear this name, cinesino. And of course, it refers to the hat of the Chinese countryside. Chinese or Southeastern Asia, from China or Southeastern Asia. And so maybe she thought she was very funny when she mimicked these slanted eyes. Here we have another chapter. In 2021, I mean last year, these are all very recent cases. In New York, this photo by Luo Bing, who is a famous Chinese photographer, came out. And this photo was praised by the Chinese netizens as a correct way of representing beauty, not focusing on the slanted eyes and giving dignity to the Chinese beauty among the other beauties of the world. There is a small problem here. Here again, Global Times. What is wrong to have slanted eyes? Do Chinese people with slanted eyes have to feel inferior just because of their eyes? Or even more important, is it true that Chinese people don't have slanted eyes? This is not true. Many Chinese people have slanted eyes. Is there anything wrong with that? In some cases, even in the Chinese debate, which generated after these incidents, many Chinese netizens commented, but sorry, I have freckles. I have slanted eyes. Is there anything wrong with me? Even in this comment, another position came forward. Isn't it that this focusing on the aesthetics of eyes representation is a sign of, or a sense of cultural inferiority? Hu Xijin is a very important editor in Global Times, writes, since modern times, the West has never ceased its contempt and mockery on the Chinese people. Chinese, especially those overseas, are particularly sensitive to this. The feeling has partly been strengthened by our sense of cultural inferiority. In other words, they did humiliate us first, but how much we were hurt was inversely proportional to our strength. We also scold Westerners, but often they are not concerned. This is because they have a sense of superiority. So they do not care about being ridiculed by us. I believe that we are now living at a time when China's material capacity is increasing, and its people are becoming more and more broad-minded. And I believe that our attention to the insults to China from Westerners will definitely gradually fade. So will our anger when facing insults. We have discovered more cases of insulting China in recent times. That is because as the internet develops, there are more scrutiny and more resources to punish those who insult China. Weibo has more than 500 million users. So you just can imagine the impact on the media. It is quite interesting to teach the offenders a lesson, and it helps us find our own sense of power. The idea here from Global Times is we will not forget anymore what you, Western Westerners, are doing to us. I have noticed that those who insult China often apologize quickly when they are caught because they fear the possibility of losing of their business in China. This is another very important aspect of this issue. This is a complete contrast to what happened when China was very poor. Back then, Westerners used to have a sense of superiority that we could do nothing even if they insulted China. I believe this will remain the same for a long period. Now, exposing cases of insulting China are no longer something that makes Chinese tremble with fury. Instead, we generally feel good. It is a natural process for Chinese people to bid farewell to sorrow and to increasingly consolidate our national confidence. This is a Chinese source, an official Chinese source, commenting like that. Is this to be considered an overreaction? Maybe. Again, Global Times, Chen Xi is a journalist who interviewed Zheng Tianyou, who is a Chinese, a Belgian of Chinese origin. When asked about the controversy that sprung up concerning the studio's choice to design the main character with slanted eyes or single eyelids, which is another topic, but we have no time to discuss about that, which many Chinese netizens criticize as promoting stereotypes, Zheng said he thinks the idea of the whole controversy is a detrimental beauty standard. What, quote, what I don't really like is the whole trend about appearance. I think it's really detrimental to the entire society, and that it is why some young people feel bad about their looks. It's a good thing to accept beauty diversity. So what does he say? What does this cartoonist say? Why do we focus so much, we Chinese people, we focus so much on these, aesthetic standards? Aren't these aesthetic standards problematic per se? Yes, I'm running. Yeah. I don't want to give you any answer. I don't want to say, okay, Chinese people are right, Westerns are wrong. Westerns, I mean, mainly American or European, of course, but we are wrong. Everybody has the right to have whatever eyes they God gave them. Okay, everything is fine. What I want to underline here is the attitude of the distorted point of view of some Western, let's say, professionals working with China. In a very audacious summary, I would point out 3 words. First of all, superficiality. To be superficial means that you only stay on the surface of things. And you want to describe an entire phenomenon, especially cultural phenomenon, from outside. And first of all, you feel that it is righteous to do that. you don't feel wrong to do that, because since you are on the surface, you look down and you think you can see everything, but in fact, you only see the surface of things. Second big mistake, generality, or genericità in Italian. What is generality? Generality is when you want to focus with a single specific definition a whole population. How many times we say the Chinese, the, even worse, the Africans, the Italians? How many times we say that? When you work in China, you have to understand that China is a huge country. I don't want to tell you triviality or banal things, it's obvious. But I want to underline this. A Chinese from Dongbei, from Changchun, where I studied, near Russia, Harbin, near Russia, or in Xinjiang in the west, or in Guangzhou in the south, are so different as we are in Europe, between a Swedish, Portuguese, or Italian. It's very important to understand the complexity of the Chinese population if you want to work with Chinese people. Last but not least, shallowness. Shallow, of course, is the opposite of deep, okay? When the most bravest, the most courageous people will say, okay, let's make a step forward in order to understand China. And let's try to understand what is there behind this country and culture. Okay, we learn maybe something, 5 minutes, 50 minutes, 5 days, and we think that we can understand everything. And we think that we are enabled already to make our cultural discourse about China. But we don't understand that we are swimming in a very shallow pond. Chinese culture is not a pond. Chinese culture, as all the cultures in the world, are oceans. Oceans. And if you understood a little part of the culture, you, for example, let's go back to the first image, red color, okay. Now I know a lot about China. I will push forward these aesthetical elements. For example, you don't understand that this is a big mistake. You have to understand a culture as a whole. Don't make assumptions. Study a lot if you want to work with China, which is very possible that you will do as professionals in the near future. So my advice is to avoid these 3 big mistakes and many others, of course, but I think this could be the conclusion to my conference as a message to all of you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Federico. I think it was really fascinated not only for Western people, but maybe a little bit also for the Chinese side of the class. I think every time I'm talking with you and we are talking about these topics, I'm feeling to be lucky, first of all, to have the possibility, the opportunity to talk often with you about all of this. And also because I never forgot and I never forget to have been able to live and to stay in China and to work in China without any kind of thoughts like that, but just an approach that is an approach towards friendship. I think that the last recommendation about these three keywords, it is like I was thinking in this moment that they are the recommendation that I can give to my sons and my daughter when I have to say, when the question is, how can I get friends? So don't be superficial, don't be generic, don't be shallow. It's exactly that. So I think that the real problem to overpass the political question, the geopolitical questions, there has been established between the 19th and the 20th century, is the one to approach all those things in a sense of friendship overall. I don't know if there are questions. And I'm expecting for questions. Okay, you want to come here? Come here. Yes, of course. Thanks.
Hello, Professor. Thank you for the lecture today. You spoke about the exoticization.
I can't hear.
Stay close.
I can't hear.
You spoke about the exoticization and essentializing by outsiders of certain cultural features and physical features, such as the slanted eyes.
Maybe you can take over.
Okay.
Can I allow you to do that? Because otherwise it's impossible to understand.
You spoke about the exoticization and essentializing by outsiders of certain cultural features and physical features, such as the slanted eyes in China. From within Chinese society, are such stereotypes and superficial homogenization of Chinese features being reclaimed or reinterpreted as a source of pride or being embraced, as we observe with some minority groups in the US, for example?
So you mean
do ever Chinese people take it as a form of pride?
Yes, like, are they like reclaiming these stereotypes as maybe a source of pride or like embracing them, like we see, for example, with African Americans in the United States or some other minority groups?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. This is a very interesting question. This is a very interesting question. Actually, I have never thought about that in this, from this perspective. In general, the focus now is to reduce the degree of, let's say, fury, of anger springing out up from these cases, because the reaction is always very, even very harsh, very violent in the Chinese media. Why is that? Of course, we didn't have time to talk about a lot of aspects. There is an increasing nationalism in China since the beginning of this millennium. And it is gradually become a big issue in China. But the nationalism is more focused on promoting the country as a superpower, not as an aesthetic model for the world. And it doesn't happen. Actually, in many cases, Chinese don't like to be represented at all because they are misrepresented in many cases. And they give up in doing that. For example, in Hollywood, there are some cases of good, let me use this simplistic expression, good Chinese, or even characters in American movies or series and so on, even in Netflix, Prime, or whatever. But they are not Chinese from China. They are American Chinese. The Chinese market now, or the Chinese people now, don't care. Gradually, they more and more, they don't care about the world anymore, because they think that we are the world, as we have always been throughout history. So they don't care about promoting a good model for the others, okay, as far as I understand, or to my knowledge. This is a very complex question. Thank you for your intuition.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions? Batuhan. You can talk in Turkish with me.
Hello. My question is, since there are so many wrong points in the marketing sector or in general representation of Chinese culture, in which point it appeared sharply? And if the attitude was like that for several years, then why they continue to produce advertisements or images like that? Because it could be assumed that before they produce an image or represent a culture, there should be some research to be done, if I'm not wrong.
That's a good point. Why? Why? As I told you in the last part of my presentation, there is a lot of ignorance, and a lot of superficiality. Not even shallowness, but superficialities. Many campaigns in the West are made assuming that whatever works, since we like it, they should like it, which is not true. It is a total evidence of the superficial attitude of the people working in the Chinese market. No wonder that many companies didn't succeed in China. Many companies, it's not a secret, even not far from here, Fiat didn't succeed in China. And they had a very good product for China because they misunderstood completely the Chinese mentality. They assume that a product good for Brazil in the end of the 80s was good for China in 2010, which was stupid. The Chinese middle class members want to be unique, want to have something exclusive. So, is there a, how can I say, a kind of determination to be so aggressive or so superficial, basically? Okay, we want to do it as we want, like we are taught, we have been taught in the past, and no matter what. No, I don't think so. They basically don't care. They basically don't care. And don't forget, many of this material was made by even by Chinese artists or photographers. Don't forget that. Actually, it would be very interesting to discuss about it longer and longer, but I know the time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Last question.
Yes, I think you should make a seminar or an entire course about that. Is there any further questions? No questions from anybody? Okay, since we are near to the end, I think that the time is the time to go back to the classrooms for the usual and common teaching system. I say again my thanks to Federico.
Thank to you all. Thank you.
And thank to you all for your presence here. And I hope to see you again and again and talk again and again, maybe together with Federico about our interest and our love for China and for all the other cultures in the world.
Of course.
Thank you.
Please stay there a little bit more because